The dining room table was covered in spreadsheets when I arrived at my parents' house. Color-coded columns, highlighters, sticky notes. It looked like a corporate budget meeting. My stomach sank as I recognized my name at the top of every document. Nina. Perfect timing. Mom called from the kitchen. We're just getting started. Pour yourself some wine. My older sister Diane sat at the head of the table, laptop open, looking like a CFO about to present quarterly earnings. My brother-in-law Kevin was beside her, calculator in hand. My younger brother Marcus lounged in his chair, scrolling through his phone. What's all this? I asked, though I already knew. I'd been expecting this meeting for weeks. Family financial planning, Diane announced, gesturing for me to sit. We're optimizing resource allocation across the family unit. Resource allocation, I repeated flatly. Don't look so worried, Mom said, bringing out a cheese platter. This is good news. We're going to help you manage your money better. Dad emerged from his office carrying more papers. We've done a complete analysis of family finances. Income, expenses, savings. And we've identified some inefficiencies. Inefficiencies, I said. You, Marcus said without looking up from his phone. You're the inefficiency. Sitting on 75 grand in emergency savings while the rest of us have real expenses. I'd made the mistake of mentioning my emergency fund 6 months ago during a casual family dinner. I'd been stupid enough to think they'd be proud. Instead, I'd watched their eyes light up like slot machines hitting jackpot. Diane turned her laptop to face me. We've created a 5-year family investment strategy. Look at this beautiful chart. The green represents pooled resources. The blue shows projected growth through strategic allocation. You want to pool my emergency fund, I said. Not pool, Kevin corrected. Redistribute. More efficient this way. Diane and I need $40,000 for the home addition. Marcus needs $20,000 for his business venture. Mom and Dad need $15,000 for the roof repair. That's $75,000, I pointed out. My entire emergency fund. Exactly. Mom said brightly. See how perfectly it works out. Like it was meant to be. And what happens when I have an emergency? Diane waved her hand dismissively. You're 28, single, healthy, and you rent. What emergency could you possibly have? Your life is extremely low risk. Plus we're family, Dad added. If something happens, we'll help you. That's what family does. We take care of each other. By taking my savings, I said. By sharing resources intelligently, Kevin corrected, adjusting his glasses. I've run the numbers. Your emergency fund is generating maybe 1% interest in a basic savings account. Our investments will yield much higher returns. The home addition adds 20% value to our house. Marcus's business could triple the investment. Even the roof repair increases property value. Returns I'll never see, I said. You'll see them in family prosperity, Mom said, squeezing my shoulder. When we all do better, you do better. Rising tide lifts all boats. Marcus finally looked up from his phone. Stop being difficult, Nina. You live in a tiny apartment with IKEA furniture. You drive a 12-year-old Corolla. You clearly don't need 75 grand. We have real lives. Real needs. I have real needs too, I said quietly. Like what? Diane challenged. Name one thing you need that costs $75,000. I said nothing. They took my silence as concession. See. Diane continued, clicking through her presentation. Now we've already drafted the transfer authorizations. We need your signature here, here, and here. Kevin witnessed everything for legal validity. She slid documents across the table. They'd actually prepared legal papers to take my money. How did you get my account information? I asked, scanning the forms. They had my bank name, account number, everything. You left a bank statement here last Christmas, Dad said. We kept it on file. For planning purposes. You kept my private financial information for 8 months without telling me. For family planning, Mom corrected. Don't make it sound sinister. We're your parents. We want what's best for you. What's best for me is keeping my emergency fund, I said. What's best for you is being part of a thriving family unit, Diane said firmly. Stop thinking so individualistically. We're implementing a collective approach. Everyone contributes according to ability. Everyone benefits according to need. Sounds like communism, I muttered. It's called family, Marcus said. Maybe if you had one of your own you'd understand. But since you're perpetually single with no prospects, the least you can do is support the family members who are actually building something. That stung. It was meant to. I'm building something, I said quietly. What? A collection of houseplants. Marcus laughed. Your sad little apartment garden isn't a legacy, Nina. I pulled out my phone. I need to make a call before I sign anything. No calls, Dad said firmly. This is a family matter. We handle it internally. I'm calling my financial advisor, I said. If we're making major financial decisions, I want professional input. Diane sighed dramatically. You have a financial advisor? That's adorable. Let me guess, some guy at the credit union who sells you high-fee mutual funds. Something like that, I said, already dialing. He should be available. I texted him this morning that I might need him. This is ridiculous, Kevin muttered. We don't need outside interference in family finances. The call connected. Hi Thomas. It's Nina. Yes, I'm at the family meeting. Can you come? Perfect. See you in 20 minutes. I hung up. They were all staring at me. You actually called someone? Mom looked hurt. Nina, this is private family business. My finances are my business, I said. If we're going to discuss them, my advisor should be present. Fine, Diane said, closing her laptop with a snap. Let your little credit union advisor come. Maybe he'll explain to you why our plan makes sense. We sat in uncomfortable silence for 18 minutes. Mom tried to make small talk about a cousin's wedding. Marcus went back to his phone. Diane and Kevin whispered to each other, occasionally glancing at me and shaking their heads. The doorbell rang at exactly 20 minutes. Dad answered it and I heard his confused voice from the foyer. I'm sorry, who are you? Thomas Chin from First National Private Bank. I'm here to see Nina. Thomas walked into the dining room in his impeccable suit, carrying a leather briefcase. At 53 he looked every inch the senior banking executive he was. Good evening, everyone, he said professionally. Thank you for including me in this family financial discussion. Diane's face had gone slightly pale. Private bank? Nina banks at First National. Nina is one of our premier clients, Thomas said, settling into a chair beside me. Has been for 7 years. Now Nina briefed me on the situation. You're proposing to redistribute her emergency fund. We're optimizing family resources, Kevin said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Nina has $75,000 sitting idle. We have productive uses for that capital. Thomas opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. I see. And you believe $75,000 represents Nina's total liquid assets. That's what she told us, Mom said. Her emergency fund. We saw the bank statement. Ah, Thomas said, a slight smile playing at his lips. That statement. Yes, that's Nina's household spending account. She keeps roughly $75,000 there for monthly expenses and short-term cash needs. The room went silent. Monthly expenses? Diane's voice was weak. She keeps $75,000 for monthly expenses? Nina has substantial holdings across multiple account types, Thomas continued, pulling out documents. Would you like to see her actual portfolio? Yes, Dad said, but he looked like he was afraid of the answer. Thomas laid out papers across the table, covering Diane's color-coded spreadsheets. Nina's checking account, the one you saw, $75,000. Her primary savings account, $1.2 million. Her investment accounts, $8.4 million. Her retirement accounts, $3.1 million. Total liquid assets, approximately $12.7 million. Mom's cheese knife clattered to the table. That's impossible, Marcus said. Nina works in accounting. She makes like $50,000 a year. Nina is a forensic accountant specializing in financial crime, Thomas corrected. She's also one of the founding partners of Chin and Associates, a forensic accounting firm that handles corporate fraud investigations. Her annual income is approximately $900,000, not including partnership distributions and investment returns. Diane was shaking her head. No. Oh, this is fake. She drives a Corolla. A 2012 Corolla she bought cash, Thomas confirmed. Excellent reliability. Low maintenance cost. Nina is quite practical. She lives in a tiny apartment. Kevin protested. A penthouse condo she owns outright in the Riverside Towers, Thomas said. Purchase price $1.4 million. Current value approximately $2.1 million. She owns it under an LLC for privacy reasons. Dad's face had gone gray. The IKEA furniture. Custom pieces designed to look like IKEA, I said quietly. I like minimalist design. Just because I can afford expensive furniture doesn't mean I want it. Mom was crying now. Why didn't you tell us? When should I have told you? I asked. During the family dinners where you offered to lend me money for groceries? When Diane gave me her old couch because I couldn't afford new? When Marcus suggested I get a roommate to save on rent? Thomas pulled out another document. There's another matter. Nina asked me to review these transfer authorizations you prepared. He held up the documents they'd wanted me to sign. These documents contain Nina's private account information she never shared with you. That's concerning. Additionally, you've prepared legal authorizations to access her accounts without her explicit consent. That's not just concerning. That's potentially criminal. The color drained from Dad's face. Now wait a minute. Bank fraud is a federal crime, Thomas continued calmly. Unauthorized access to financial accounts. Using obtained financial information without consent. These are serious charges that can result in federal prosecution. We're her family. Diane said desperately. We weren't going to steal from her. We were just planning. You were planning to take $75,000 without her agreement, Thomas said. You obtained her account information without permission. You prepared legal documents to authorize transfers. The only thing preventing this from being bank fraud is that Nina hasn't signed anything. Yet. Kevin stood abruptly. This is entrapment. You can't set us up like this. Nina didn't set anyone up, Thomas said. She mentioned having an emergency fund. You obtained her private banking information, prepared unauthorized transfer documents, and called a meeting to pressure her into signing them. Nina simply chose to have her financial advisor present before making any decisions. We're sorry, Mom said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. We didn't know. If we'd known you had all this money. What? I interrupted. You would have treated me with respect? Asked instead of demanded? That makes it worse, Mom. That means you only value people based on their wealth. That's not what I meant, she whispered. Marcus was staring at his phone, his face red. Jesus Christ. I just Googled your firm. You investigated the Hartwell Corporation fraud. That was national news. You were on CNBC. I've been on CNBC 14 times, I said. 60 Minutes twice. The Wall Street Journal quoted me last month. None of you noticed because none of you asked about my work. You assumed accounting meant I sat in a cubicle processing expense reports. Diane looked at her stupid spreadsheet, now covered by my real financial documents. All this time we thought you were struggling. I was never struggling, I said. I was careful. There's a difference. I drove an old car because I didn't care about cars. I lived simply because I didn't need to impress anyone. I saved aggressively because I'm good with money. And you all interpreted my financial discipline as poverty. Why didn't you correct us? Dad asked. I wanted to see who you were when you thought I had nothing, I said simply. Turns out you're people who'd steal $75,000 from someone you believed couldn't afford to lose it. That tells me everything. Thomas cleared his throat. Nina has asked me to present you with options. Option 1. She files a complaint with federal banking regulators regarding the unauthorized access to her financial information. Given the documentary evidence, prosecution is likely. They all started talking at once. Thomas held up his hand. Option 2. You sign agreements acknowledging what you attempted to do, surrendering any financial information you have about Nina, and agreeing to no further contact unless she initiates it. In exchange, Nina doesn't file complaints. And our relationship is over? Mom asked through tears. The relationship where you treat me like an ATM is over, I said. Whether we have any relationship at all depends on whether you can see me as a person rather than a resource. We do see you as a person, Diane said weakly. No, you don't, I said standing. You see me as $75,000. You made a spreadsheet. You color-coded it. You divided my money among yourselves before even asking if I'd give it to you. That's not how you treat people. That's how you treat resources. Thomas produced settlement agreements from his briefcase. You have 48 hours to sign these. If Nina doesn't receive them, she files the complaint Monday morning. Where are you going? Mom asked as I gathered my things. Home, I said. To my penthouse. The one you thought was a studio apartment. I'm going to feed my cat, pour myself some expensive wine, and enjoy the city view from my balcony. Nina, please, Dad said. Can't we talk about this? We just did, I said. You called a meeting to divide my money. I called my banks you. Now you know the truth. What you do with it is up to you. I walked out, Thomas beside me. In the driveway he handed me his briefcase. That went about as expected. Thanks for coming, Thomas. I know it's Sunday evening. For one of our top clients? Always available. Though I have to ask, are you really going to file the complaint if they don't sign? I thought about Diane's spreadsheet. Marcus's casual cruelty. The way they'd obtained my private information and prepared to take my money. The way they treated me for years, assuming I was struggling while I built a multimillion-dollar career. Yes, I said. I am. They need to understand there are consequences. Good, Thomas said. Because that wasn't just family dysfunction. That was attempted financial fraud. They crossed a line. All 4 signed agreements arrived by courier Monday afternoon. Diane's had tear stains. Mom's included a handwritten note. We're sorry. We love you. I filed the documents and didn't respond to the note. Because loving someone and loving their money aren't the same thing. And I'd finally learned which one my family actually felt. 6 months later, my firm investigated a major corporate embezzlement case. The trial made national headlines. I did another round of media appearances. A cousin called to tell me she'd seen me on the news, that the family was so proud. I thanked her and hung up. Proud now that they knew I was successful. Not proud when they thought I was a struggling accountant in a studio apartment. The difference mattered. My portfolio grew to $15 million. I bought a vacation home in Aspen. I donated $500,000 to financial literacy programs for young women. And I kept driving my Corolla. Because I'd learned that the people worth having in your life don't need you to prove your worth with expensive cars or designer clothes. They value you for who you are, not what you have. My family failed that test. But I passed my own test. The test of choosing self-respect over obligation, boundaries over guilt, and truth over comfortable lies. The family meeting divided my small account. I divided myself from people who couldn't see past it. Best financial decision I ever made.